Welcome back to Alley Cat Paint and Design. What we're going to be working on are the two light boxes that I had started. As you can see in this guy, I went ahead and painted it. I started the other one as well and painted it silver. Both of them were painted silver, but this is just a base because both of these are supposed to look like metal. So the silver underneath, then, and I didn't show this because it was very simple, nothing fancy, and it was all brushed on with the same style paints that I always use. So nobody needs to see that. It's just very simple, nothing fancy. I did tape off the lens here so that I didn't get paint all over it, but that's it. So simple silver color. Get the ball rolling here. Nobody needs to see all that. Now we're going to start getting into the detail. So you see, this isn't just taped. I have a piece of paper here because this particular color that I wanted to paint this, I don't have in a brushable paint. The other one is brushable, and I will brush it and show you. But this one I didn't have. It was spray paint. So much easier to just go ahead and take care of it, spray it, and then show you after the fact. So you can see I have brushed areas where I wanted the paint to look like it's missing, so you see the bare metal underneath. My intent is to go through onto some of these areas and paint some rust, so it looks like rust is on some of these areas. Not all of them, but I wanted to show that the paint has worn away and gives it a distressed look. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to start painting this because I want it to look like wire, and we're going to paint it red and blue. I'm going to start tonight with blue. So I got everything out, got everything we needed, paintbrush paint, all that good stuff. Let's just get started. Since I want it to look like wire, I want to use colors that look like wire. Blue and red are going to stand out really good against this green backdrop, and I'm going to distress it even further with some black, but I'll show you that later. And you can make the wire coloring any color you want. It can be yellow, or I've seen yellow, orange, green, black, red. I initially thought about doing red and white, and I thought that would look like a candy cane. I don't want that. So I think red and blue will be just fine. So let's get started. With lots of other painting examples that I show you, I am using my MAC Black Widow 1. The paint is Rust-Oleum Gloss Royal Blue. You could even pick a different shade of blue if you don't like or want to use this one. The brush is starting to get a little stiff, probably from some of the paint drying in it, so I'm going to clean it out real quick and we'll start again. But I'm not getting into every little nook and cranny. When I go to weather this, I'm going to wash it in black. And that'll get into every little nook and cranny and will help cover the joints where they are butted up against each other. And so I'm not too worried about it. I also need to be careful because I don't want these colors that I'm putting on here to be on this surface. So you have to use just a little bit of paint. Otherwise, you use too much, it's going to want to just run down that surface and onto here. But we're going to talk about weathering later. I didn't go into a lot of detail about these, but these areas were done with a Q-tip. I had to paint it while it was wet and go back over and remove some of the paint. I also used a plastic fork for some of the details to look like scratching in the paint. So we'll go over some more of that later. It's definitely a good idea to keep the brush soft and pliable. It definitely makes it easier to paint. I like it. It worked out well. Again, like I've told you before, you do what you like. I did see that I got a little glob there, but I think I can cover that with some black wash. I also went all the way to the bottom on both sides. And you might think, well, why did you go that far? Because we know we're going to be covering some of that with our accessory pieces, and we sure are. But I don't want to get to that end where I'm ready to put this on and then see that I didn't quite cover because I thought I wouldn't need to. Just did it anyway. Paint it all the way down. So there we go. There's the blue wire. I will paint the red wire after that's dry. Let's go in here and let's go ahead and paint the red side of the blue. Now, yesterday I started over here and worked my way up and over. Kind of thought about that after the fact. Once I was over here working, I very well could have put this down against the table and ruined the paint. So a little forethought, I think I'll start over here tonight on this side. I didn't get into every nook and cranny. I wasn't concerned about that yesterday, and I'm not going to be so concerned about that today, but I definitely don't want to start getting red over the blue. I don't want to have to go back. So here's where you have to start to be real careful. And you also saw me manipulate the box and move it all over because we're not painting a flat surface. If you don't move it while you paint it, you will find after you're finished that there are areas you could have done better, but because you didn't move it, you didn't see it. So be prepared to move your product around if need be. There we go. There was a couple of times I got the red on the blue, and sometimes it went down into the grooves a little too much, but I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to weather that some more, cover up some of those boo-boos, and make it all better. Okay, so we're ready to start putting some rust on this guy. I went ahead and attached my metal pieces that were cut to help make this look like a conduit holding wire, because I want these to be rusty, not completely, but some. So why not put them in place and start applying some paint with them at the same time I'm applying it to the box. So here's what I've done. In order to mix rust, you got to use numerous colors. These first four right here are brown, yellow, and red to get that earthy tone. And rust comes in lots of different shades. These two are blue, yellow, and red. So that kind of gives you an idea what they will look like when you mix them. And I don't need that much. That's why I'm using my little whiteboard here. I'm going to use several different brushes because I'm going to use some different techniques. I'll use my MAC #1. And then I'm also going to use, this is a small, what's called a small round, and it's for small details, but I need some somewhat stiff brushes. What I want to do is, especially on this, is I want to pull some of that rust down like it's streaking down on the paint. So I want that. I'm also going to keep some Q-tips handy and definitely some paper towels handy. If I see something that I'm doing, it's really not going well and I don't like it, I'll just wipe it off. So let's get started. Definitely not liking how that MAC was working. So I go with this a little more rigid brush. Now keep in mind when you are doing detail and you start dabbing your brush, you will ruin it. But this is what's called a dry brush technique. I barely have any paint. I don't really want a lot. I'm giving it some color. I just don't want it coated. This really lighter, very almost orangey looking rust is almost like a surface rust. You can use the wiping board like I have, as you can see with all the other things, or you could use a paper towel to get rid of some of that excess paint. I've even taken and done this on the edge. Now we're going to go back and add some darker tones. I'm not trying to completely coat the whole thing. This is layering. Now I'm probably going to have to go all over most of this again when I do the black, but we'll see. However, I forgot there was something I was going to do over here across this corner, so we'll do that next time. Now on this box, you should be able to see these raised areas. I did that on purpose. Different than the other box. Those are going to be rust as well, but that's rust bubbling through the paint. So I did that on purpose. So let's rust those. This is going to have recessed areas. Again, I'm not trying to completely coat, because those recessed areas, when I do the black wash, like I will the other one, that black will get down in those little recesses and will really bring it to life. Alright, I did the detail of the rust and totally forgot that kind of in this big blank area here and kind of down the front here, I wanted to make a yellow, almost like a caution type stripe, fill in some of this area since there's activity here to kind of help fill in, and then of course the switch will be up here. So I'm going to do that and see if I can't work around this rust. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to edge it with this tape. You can see where it wants to take you. See, if I've gone too far this way, it kind of bulges out here. If I go too far this way, it bulges out over here. If I keep it pulled tight, then that's where it needs to go. And I'm not worried about bringing it around this side. I'll definitely stop it at the bottom. Nobody's going to see mostly at the bottom anyway. I don't think that's what I really want right there, but I think I'll just go with it. It'll be all right. Paint. I've already opened this and stirred it. I got some Q-tips. I've got some toothpicks close at hand here because I'm going to weather this while I paint it. Okay, now I'm dabbing here at the edge because I don't really want it to be crisp. I might want it crisp in certain areas, the edge there. I don't want the whole thing crisp. I want it to look weathered. I'm also okay with some of these areas, that darkness coming through the paint. Now it would certainly be easier with these rusty areas to go back and hit it with some more rust after this yellow has dried. But since I kind of jumped the gun and put the rust on before the yellow, I'm trying to avoid having to go back if I can. Now the tape that I just used is basically just a masking tape, nothing fancy. Let's paint on this guy a little bit, top and the bottom. What I don't like sometimes about this paint when I use it is it's a thick paint, and technically I should dilute it, but I do not, and it can cause runs because it's so thick. So I will paint this and let it dry, and turn it over and paint the outside and let it dry so that I don't have runs in the paint. This is a MAC 839, and this is for lettering, to fill in letters. I'm just dabbing the edge because I want to go ahead and get the edge covered, but I don't want runs. That works for me. Nothing fancy. Just looks like the blue paint is worn away, showing the metal underneath. Okay, as you can see, I went ahead and went over the yellow stripe and blocked off what will be striping across, and they'll be black. Okay, so paying attention to these areas where I have scratches or worn away areas where the yellow paint is also missing, and avoiding those areas, I really give the impression that it's really worn. That's exactly what I was going for, and I think I am really happy with that. And over this dull, dark facade here, that's a real splash of color, kind of like the red and the blue for the wiring. So I like that. All right, so back to this one. It's got the rust corrosion really coming through. I'm going to be painting, and I'm going to paint up to it, and this is where maybe also where I have to go back and do some rust touch up, but we'll see how this goes. So at this point, you had seen that I had painted one side, but I went ahead and painted all four sides and then even the face here. So what I want to do now is, this is the top. What I want to do is add on the side, this side, I'm going to add a square that will be yellow, and it will also look like a caution tape. It's just going to be a yellow square with probably a couple of black chevrons, however you want to say it. But they're going to go over this rust, and the rust is going to be eating through it, so it's going to look really worn. So we're going to do that, and then when I'm done with that, I will go back and I will remix all of my rust colors so that I can go back and touch up the rust on all of these, and like give it some areas where the rust is running over, the blue paint, things like that. So we were going to paint a yellow square on this side right here, and I put tape so that I had a nice straight line on the top and the bottom, and I didn't think about the underneath paint being silver. It acts almost like metal and gives the paint a surface that it has a hard time adhering to, and when I went to peel the tape off, I peeled the paint right off with it. So I'm not going to be able to put that on here, but fortunately, having peeled the tape off, I have a nice straight line where I repainted. So I can follow those lines, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and paint this yellow. There we go. I think that's just fine. All right, so we want to paint on this, maybe some stripes like this. So having already suffered an issue with the blue paint peeling off of the silver underpaint, I decided not to apply tape to this at all because I'm afraid then I would pull the yellow and the blue right off. So what I did was I made a template. As you can see, I used a simple triangle, and then I used all the lines on my board here, as you can see, one right after another, all the way across. I also used these to determine my middle, ran a middle line, and then I used an X-Acto knife and I cut out those pieces. Now this is just a general piece of cardboard, nothing of any. So cut it out. The template doesn't have to be perfect because again it's going to be weathered. This is just to give me an idea of where I need to paint. I'm going to leave it just like that. Wherever you see that the paint is wore away or like this rusty area, I will not be painting. Also, while I'm at it, I needed to put a hole up top here so that I can put the switch. I can put the switch in that'll be for the light. So I used that oscillating tool like I used on the other one, only instead of trying to cut in like this and pop it out, I just cut straight through. So this will mount underneath just like that. I'll push it as far this way as I can to allow that wire to go. So what I need to do is come in here and drill a hole. Now that that's on, next step for this one and for the other box is more weathering. Alright, we're ready to work a little bit more on both of these light boxes. Now what I've done is I've gone ahead and remixed my rust. So I want to add some rust before I try and do a wash. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do that wash, so I thought before I even try to get into that, I better make sure what I have on this one done as far as I can get it. This is a dry brush technique where you have actually very little on the brush and you drag down because this is the top, and so the rust and water stuff is going to come down, wash down the surface. Okay, I really like how that's looking. I'm going to let that dry a little and then I'll go back and do other colors over those spots. To darken, let's take a look at this one. I want many layers of different shades. No need to clean my brush in between each color. And I'm still kind of doing the dry brush. Not only do I want it to run down and look like the rust is running down, but I don't want to fill in every little cavity. I want all the colors to come through. Remember, this is where I had put Bondo to thicken up and look textured like the rust is, like plaque. I would say that's the rust. I think I'm done with the rust. Alright, what we're going to do now is we're going to use some of this Rust-Oleum chalk paint, and we're going to see if this could be used like the wash that I'm talking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to experiment in a location that most people are not going to see, the bottom. Let's see what this looks like straight out of the can. We're going to see it's also water-based. Water-based and oil-based don't usually mix. So when I start to apply it, it'll be interesting to see if it goes onto this. This is definitely very much oil-based. And we'll see what we get. If I don't like it, I can probably wipe it off, and perhaps even, because it's water-based, dilute it with some water and see how that works as well. The whole idea is to get it to settle in nooks and crannies, settle into all of these little nooks and crannies, settle in between all of this and at the edges of it. Just give it all kind of a dark, muddied look. Also settle down into some of the rust, kind of darken that rust up, make it look even better. So we'll see.
Let's take a look and see what happens here.
Well, I don't not like it. As you can see, I did add some water to dilute a little bit. What I'm going to do is set this in front of a fan to get this to evaporate a little quicker, get that water to disappear. And that's what you're looking for, is as the water disappears, the paint will move to other areas on purpose, like lower recessed areas. So when I do this guy and these rusty areas are clumpy and thick, it will recess down into those clumpy areas and really make the rust look a little more dynamic. But let's see what happens. Okay, so this is sat for about 20 minutes, and you can see with what's reflective and what's not, a lot of it has dried, but it has sat on the floor because of this. It has sat crooked, and you can see right through here and right along here where it kind of puddled. It did run. That's where it seems to be the thickest. But you could definitely see the rust here on the edge still. I really like it. I like what it did. Now what I'm going to do is take a paper towel and I'm going to dab off some of that excess. You do have to be careful when using paper towels because you will leave the imprint of the paper towel. I like that. So let's do a side now. Let's do a side here where we're going to see all of that detail. Now we're going to give that some time to dry. We'll see how that turns out. Let's try it on this one. Again, because this has an oil-based paint, I don't know how well this is gonna do. Again, we're going to test on the bottom. This is the bottom of this sign, so we don't have to worry about if we don't like the way it looks or it didn't turn out great or it doesn't work worth a darn. Nobody's going to see it. Set this in front of a fan and see what it does. You can really see it separating real bad. Yeah, I may like the look of it. I don't know. We have this side unfinished. No black wash over it, but this side it does. Changes it quite a bit. You can see some lining where the black dried. The wire, the red and blue wire, is definitely faded. As you can see, it's a far cry from that to that, and I'm definitely happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply it up top here. The other one, I told you it was separating, and as you can see, that's what it ended up like, and it's not on there very well. Pretty easy to kind of wipe off. So I'm going to wipe this off. It's definitely not coming off very well, but that is most definitely not the look I was going for. So I'll have to do something totally different on these other sides. Well, let's get some paint on this. I'm probably going to finish this on the other sides without recording and recording. It's just the same as this. Okay friends, we're back, and what I have done is every side that I put all of that wash on, I also went back, because it is a chalk or a water-based paint, I hit all these edges with a matte spray clear so that it would kind of trap it in, so that if you rubbed your hands on it or you tried to dust it or clean it at some point with a damp rag, you didn't wipe off the chalk, because we definitely didn't want to wipe that off. But what it did was it took every area where it had kind of some gray hues and some black hues, it kind of darkened it all, other than where I had the rust kind of washing down from, like, especially this area and up here in the corner, things like that. Other than kind of covering some of that a little bit, I am pretty happy with it. Just like it is, I'd considered remixing all of my rust colors and just doing a little bit more dry brushing over it because it darkened it so bad. But I think I'm just going to leave it just like that. I'm pretty pleased with that. Now, let's get to this one, because this has been a bit of an issue. As you can see, that is what happened when I used that same chalk, which is a water-based, over the blue, which is an oil-based. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to experiment with this edge and probably with one of these rust spots because they are oil-based. And what I've done is I took a little bit of paint and put it in here, and then I used some of this, which is a medium reducer. So it's similar to a paint thinner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix, and it's going to make this paint watery and thin. As I work, this will evaporate out and the paint will go back to being a thicker paint. If it does that, we will simply add some more reducer and remix. If you are experimenting with this, doing it yourself, and you continue to work with it and you think it needs more reducer, then put more reducer in. If you think it needs more paint, put more paint in. It's up to you. What I'm concerned with is that because this blue is not adhering greatly to the silver underneath, I'm afraid I'm going to wipe it right off because I put reducer in the paint. So let's experiment a little. Good reason to wear gloves. And I'm really going to rub it on. I press that on pretty good. And then let's see what happens when I go to wipe real thoroughly. That didn't take it off at all. So that's good. I'm pretty happy with that. So what we'll do is I'm going to use this and I'm going to leave it on thicker in some areas than others. I definitely don't want to rub it off. I'm going to be careful with how much pressure I apply, and I'm not going to go over and over and over a spot. As the reducer starts to affect that blue paint, I certainly don't want it to affect it to the point where I'm going to unintentionally rub the blue paint right off. So we're just experimenting here to see what we like. Kind of like that. That's kind of cool. I don't know if you could see it, but right here I was starting to see kind of a white hue. That was the cotton from the cotton balls starting to adhere to the paint. See, it's doing it again. Look at that, it's doing it really bad right there. That means the paint is drying quicker than I can do what I have to do. May mean that what I've got mixed in here is already thickening back up. So let's get rid of that cotton ball. So I may have to add more reducer already. That was pretty fast. This stuff I got from O'Reilly's. Yep, that did it. So I'm gonna have to work a little faster. But at least now I know when I start to see cotton clumping, I'm actually getting more into just paint and not the reduced paint. It's definitely giving me the effect that I wanted though. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to look weathered. I like that. I think that turned out really well. Definitely pleased. Next video that I'm going to do will be putting all the lights in this and in the other. So I'll show you how I put that all together and then how it goes in the boxes. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment. See you next time.